Matt can explain it using
No
YouTube.
good.
Well, I'm going live, guys. It's 3 o'clock. So here we go. All right. It says we're live. So, welcome from the crossroads of America to a talk show about guns, politics, or anything else that crosses my mind. We'll answer questions from the audience, either in the chat or by email at rickslifeasiseeit@gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. I have a Patreon page, PayPal, and all that other stuff in the info section below. So I got that out of the way. Let me see. Who was first in the room today? Hang on. It was Jerry Parker, I believe. Yep. Ron 2A Matters G23. And Gun Loving Grandpa. Night Strike's in there. So, anyway, that's where we're at. Anyway, let me introduce my panel that I have so far. I've got the one and only Night Strike. How you doing?
I'm doing. I got ammo today at the store. I'm good.
All right. Then we got the one and only New York Outcast.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining us.
And one we haven't had in here for a while, Clover Tech. How you doing?
What up?
He's got to hit the mute button, I guess, or something. We can.
No,
We can't. Can we hear you?
no. Apparently not.
I heard him.
I heard.
Oh, we got you. We got you now.
We got you now.
So how you doing?
I'm well.
Good. I'm glad you're here. So anyway, I want to give everybody an update. This is good old Medicare, United Healthcare Complete system. Everybody knows that the doctor wanted me to have all these tests, and it was meant to happen this past Monday, but my insurance hadn't approved it. Well, they scheduled me for this coming Monday to have it. They called me yesterday and said, your insurance has denied the procedure because they want you to have to stress test first. Now, my doctor didn't want me to have the stress test because he says you can't do the one because of my back. Right. And then he said he could give me, he said the other one is where they inject you and makes your heart pump faster and they can measure it and all that good stuff. He said, I didn't really want to do that because we're afraid what might happen. But the insurance demands it. So there we go. That's where we're at. So my appointment got canceled to God knows when, to when they can get me in for a stress test. So I guess my health ain't that important. It's the money that counts. It's all about the money. But there we go. But I've been taking it easy and trying to watch what I'm eating and stuff. And I haven't had any more what's the word? Issues since the last time. So I don't know. So that's where I'm at, guys. Just want to let everybody know. So there we go. They think I got a heart issue. I had to go to the heart doctor the other day. Clover, in case you didn't know, they want to do one of them catheterizations, whatever they call it, when they put dye into your heart, so they can check all the valves and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we're meeting to do. But good old Medicare don't want to pay it. So, because what they're hoping is if I do the stress test, they might not have to do the other one and they save money. I know they're thinking, But anyway, I just want to keep everybody up to date.
So tell them this last week was a stress test?
What?
Did you tell them this last week? You should have qualified as a stress test?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I was
Yeah,
telling the
they
nurse, I said, "Damn, you're stressing me out by keep messing me around." You know?
don't give you any credit for that.
Nope, nope. You know. But
Yeah,
anyway,
having to go to the doctor's stress test enough for me. I don't
yeah.
like going to the doctor.
No, I mean it scared me a little because when I went to my when I had this when I had that funny feeling in my arms and stuff, and I went to the doctor's, my normally primary care doctor, he sent me right then and there to the heart doctor, the cardiologist. Is that what you call him? I mean, he said, "Can you make it over to his office right now?" I said, "I can be there," you know. So they were doing all that, and the heart doctor said, "I want to get you in on Monday." This was last week. And I thought, "Damn, I'm dropping dead." But I guess I'm not. I guess I'm doing okay because I'm still here and I ain't been tested yet. So anyway, yeah, you're right there, G23. Putting up with Rob should have counted as a stress test. I agree. So just try not to get me too excited today. I must admit, for the last 2 weeks, I've tried to stay off the news, trying not to get myself all worked up, even though the world is falling around us, So, yeah. So I just think, I don't know. I was just saying tonight, Strike, before we went live. I do feel sorry for that lady's family, but God, I said Alex, what's his name? My mind's gone blank. It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Baldwin.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin. Yeah.
That
it is a shame that somebody lost their life, especially, accidentally, unintentionally, however, with a family and whatnot. That is horrible or tragic in a sense. But yeah, what you're saying, if it had to happen to somebody, it's kind of ironic. So
yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's a shame. Obviously, that's something that money or anything can't just make up. So very unfortunate.
Yep, and I see our president is, because he is the president, he's using taxpayers' money to build a wall around his Delaware home. But he let hundreds of thousands of people come through down there in Texas.
Whoa! That can't be right. Democrats don't believe in walls.
Yeah, he's building one around his home in Delaware.
Huh?
And personal home?
Yes, and we're paying for it.
Why would we be paying for it?
Because he's the president, and it's security issues.
Wow.
But I said they can let hundreds of thousands of them cross down there in Texas. So there we go.
I feel if you're a public representative, your door should be open.
But luckily, Clovertech's not down that far. He's further up north, I believe, or east, I should say, northeast of Texas.
Yeah, but the other thing about that is you need to stop believing I'm not even going to call them mainstream anymore, because they're not mainstream media. We are mainstream media. They are old, decrepit, antique media. So people need to stop believing. And I don't give a crap if it's Fox or CNN or who. You need to quit with all that. Just quit. Whether they're talking about Biden or whether they're talking about Trump or the wall or Alec Baldwin or anything else. Everybody needs to just stop. Just stop. For years complained at how they do nothing but lie, they do nothing but twist, they do nothing but this, they do nothing but but yet people still choose to consume and perpetuate the narratives that they put out. So at what point do we put our money? Well, not necessarily our money, but I don't know, our reputation, our morals, our values. I don't even know where our mouth is, and just stop. Just let them let them go the way of the dodo, right? It's not that long. I mean, who reads magazines hardly anymore? Who reads papers hardly anymore, right? Who even
Yeah.
reads news from a website anymore? Let's be honest about it. And so the more that we perpetuate the things that they put out, which all too often are not true, they're over exaggerated. The whole border thing, um, it's that way as well. I'm not saying that we don't have a problem. I'm just saying that it's exaggerated. Um, so they do two things, and we fall guilty of this too. We over exaggerate, and I'm talking about as humans, right? It's human nature. We over exaggerate, and then we offer simplified solutions for the over exaggeration, and neither one of those are correct. And until we can get out of that frame of thinking, um, I don't see anything in general getting any better. I've complained about this for some time. We've got a societal issue. And I don't know at what point we have some type of a renaissance. And I'm not talking about going back to any type of old way of thinking. People say, oh, well, those were the days back in the 50s or whatever it was, right? And I'm not talking about reverting to a prior mentality, but a renaissance as in an awakening. We wake up and realize that, there's better things to talk about. There's better ways of looking at things. Nothing is as simple really as it seems, or most things are not as black and white or as simple as they seem. And so, complex problems require complex solutions, and you don't get to that by way of interjecting emotion into it, whether it's positive or negative or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Anybody got anything to say to that?
I'd say I agree on the whole news aspect. I wouldn't 100% believe any of it, and truthfully, I feel most of it's a waste of time. That's why I don't pay for cable or haven't in years. Netflix, any of that stuff. Honestly, I don't know how people make a living and watch everything they do in some cases. But at the same time, too, if everybody just stopped, that would kill half the YouTube, basically. Most of these shows are repeating this or your thoughts of this or that. So, not that I'm against it, I guess, in a sense, but I think a lot of people would be. So, especially if we're trying to make a living on YouTube. Not that I am, but I'm just saying, there's a crowd out there. So, if people didn't have those conversations, I think a lot of people would run pretty dry on content.
Think I'd be okay with that. Just saying.
Yeah, me too. Oh, man. It's all right. I'm sorry. Carry on, guys. I'm just I'm trying to do 3 things here at one time, and it ain't working.
Need to grow an extra arm. That's how you fix that.
I know.
But right. Yeah, I don't. I don't have a problem with But I've said it all along that when we talk about the spillover into social media, and we can throw YouTube, even though YouTube is a video platform, and we can throw that into the social media aspect of things, I suppose, because it is interactive. It's the people that are viewing, right? I mean, some of the creators that get on that take that information and run with it one way or another for their own agenda. And make no mistake, they have some type of an agenda. Whether that agenda is nefarious or noble, there's a lot of factors that go into trying to determine that, as to the track record of the creator, how whether or not that creator personally, and a lot of other aspects. And I know that's difficult for a lot of people viewing. I say it all the time that, all creators are viewers, not all viewers are creators. It ultimately, because, us all being viewers, we fall into this category. I do have 3 fingers pointing back at myself, and I'm aware of it. But, if we consume that, right, like YouTube holds, the main quote unquote mainstream, because I don't like using that term, but the old antiquated, dying media, YouTube and other social media holds that up as the pinnacle of stuff. And I think when we when we regurgitate, I mean, I think we reaffirm that. And I think, when we consume that as viewers, I think we reaffirm that. And so at what point do we try to move away from that? We can utilize those sources for information, I think, without, multiple sources of information, not just one. And I think just put a better version of, if you're going to report what's going on, report what's going on. Don't interject your opinions and other things into it. If you're going to put spin, well, then we need to teach people that there's a difference between the spinsters and the folks that actually report what's going on. It's two totally separate things, and they've become married into one. Most viewers out there, they only see it as one, and they go, "Oh, this guy's the number one trusted source, or this girl is the number one trusted source." And you go and look, and they're a spinster, and so they're holding this person up as this reporter that is doing this noble thing and all this other stuff. And it's like, how do you not see the biases that's interjected here? How do you not see the play on emotion that's being done here? This person's not reporting so the information, in an unbiased manner gets out to the masses so that you can make your own decision. This person is doing the same exact thing that old antiquated dying media is doing. How do you possibly not see that?
Yeah. I mean, anything to say to that, Night Strike?
No, I pretty much agree with Clover and Rob.
Yeah, me too, really. Yeah, but
Clover had a vote there.
Yeah.
Actually,
Rob, on your image, I hate to say it, but you're using outdated information. From what I hear, a ringtone of a video of G23 getting smacked down by his wife is at 50%.
Oh, it's already out there?
It's already out there.
Damn it. Well, somebody definitely send me that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there we go. Anyway, what you guys got anything else? You got any topics you want to bring up?
Rick, I'm going to bring it up because we were talking about it in the 4 chat. And I know Clover's got to get irked at this, but what about the whole Alec Baldwin situation? Do you think he's going to get manslaughter?
No. Why would he? Why would anybody in that particular situation?
Well, somebody died from it. That's why.
Why should he? But why should? Yeah, that's great. But was it his fault when a prop master is supposed to be on site, when there was so many things with that went wrong?
Well, should the prop master be held accountable then?
Well, wasn't it his show?
How do you litigate that? Let me ask you that question. With all the complexity surrounding it, how do you litigate it? So, unknown user out there.
I understand that. I'm just asking. In this situation, it's a sticky situation.
So okay, so let's do one thing right off the bat. Let's be perfectly clear. If you have a bias against Alex Jones, if you have a bias against Alec Baldwin because he is anti-2A, he's anti-gun, then you need to admit that up front and say everything that I say going forward is based off of that bias.
No, okay? I could give two shits either way.
If you can't separate those two, then you need to, as I was talking about before, you need to inform people that I'm going at this with a bias. Okay.
Right.
So I can separate the two, right? Put any other actor in that situation, the way that things are supposed to work, or at least should work in Hollywood with filmmaking, with everything in general. So,
right. I'm going by letter of the law.
This?
I'm going by letter of the law. So
wasn't it his show? Like it was his job? Like he's the boss?
Well, everybody is talking about, is he going to get charged?
Right.
So let's stop and let's back up for a second.
Okay.
And let's talk about how this could possibly happen, right?
Okay.
Because how this can possibly happen has repercussions into the future of this kind of tragedy happening again that needs to be prevented, right? Regardless of whether or not 100%. He gets charged or he goes to jail or whatever. If he didn't do it intentionally, then it's not like we're saying, oh, well, this is a serial killer, right? We caught him. We've sentenced him. He's got the death penalty. Maybe that will deter people, right, from serial killing in the future because they see that somebody got caught. They see that somebody got punished. Well, if this was all a random tragic accident and the fault of just so many cracks in the system, which that appears to be what it was, then the only positive message that we really can be talking about is how do we prevent this in the future, right?
Right.
So here's my take on it, right?
Okay.
So there apparently was no prop masters on site. Problem number one. Dean Cain did an interview. I seen here, I think it was this morning, talking about, and I agree with him, and I think a lot of people do.
Hey, don't trust
There
all the
should
news
be
now.
no. How in the world do you get live ammunition onto a movie set? There should be security. There should be other methods of verification that are gone through. First of all, that it even gets on the set. Second thing is obviously the cinematographer and the director were standing in the line of fire, right? So regardless of whether you have blanks or not, maybe you need some type of, because, and I know this because we've taken still photos before out on the range, right, from the vantage point of the target. We've
Right.
all filmed and did different things as content creators, right, with a camera facing us, right? But that's remote. There's not somebody standing there, right? So those precautions were over. There was so many safety factors overlooked. And I think a bigger thing is, why is there not double, triple, quadruple verification on things, right? Why are actors that are handling firearms not trained? And I'm not talking about, let's go plumb beyond the fact that they need some type of firearms expert on site if they're handling firearms, right? They have to have that if they have pyrotechnics.
Right.
So what's the difference, right? Anything that is a danger to the actors, the crew, the staff there at that filming location, right? They've got all of these safety mechanisms that are supposed to be in play. Now, we don't know exactly what all fell apart, but it's obvious from the outcome that
Well-
several things had to have
Well-
fallen apart. So why don't all actors that are dealing with firearms, look, you got to go through some kind of basic training, and it's
Right.
also
No,
your
no, that's
responsibility, because currently it's not. The prop master hands them stuff. The actor is just assuming that everything is okay. This is not the first time this has happened, by the way.
No,
right?
it happened to Brandon Lee too.
So, right, it's happened to many people. So over the course of film history. So if that's the case, then why are not actors that are doing firearm stuff, and I don't care whether they're anti-2A or anti-gun or not, and they're using guns in the, I could care less. But if you're going to handle firearms, this is where we need to stand strong as a community and demand consistency, right? We are safe and responsible. We all follow all rules of firearm ownership and firearm handling, right?
Mhm.
So
Why
if you're
shouldn't
going to
they?
handle those firearms, whether you like them or not, whether you think we should have them or not, I think you should, especially, you should learn the safety procedures, and that includes not pointing them at somebody. That includes double checking the actions, double checking if the prop master loaded that and handed it to me, and I was an actor. This is just me.
Right.
I would say, no, wait just a minute. Now, I understand that you don't want me loading this, but you need to unload it. I want to see the rounds you're putting in. Okay, cool. Okay, now put them, that's fine. Cool, put them in, right? As an actor, I would want to verify myself, right? But we've got this detachment with Hollywood. And again, I don't know how the filmmaking process works. I'm not going to claim to. But
No, neither.
why on earth would any actor that was handling a firearm not want to verify stuff like that? And it's because they're so detached from
Reality.
the reality that we all know, because we deal with this every single day. So there's my overall point. That was a lot of blathering to make a point,
Right.
which is very simple, which is the issue at hand here is we should be focusing on anyway, is these are preventable. This
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
preventable. How do
Absolutely.
we prevent it? Let's talk about that. Let's not talk about necessarily even who's responsible or placing blame or doing anything else. Let's admit it's a tragedy, which it is.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about how we prevent it. Regardless of who the actor is, regardless of who the director is, regardless of who the producer is, right? I don't care their political leaning, sexual persuasion, or anything else. I want to stop a senseless tragedy like this from ever happening again, because
And
it's ridiculous.
I said this on a YouTube comment on the situation that, they don't have a lot of firearms training when they do scenes with firearms. And if you're gonna deal with, whether it's a prop, it's a real firearm, no matter what, you should at least have everybody that's involved including the director, knows some sort of firearm safety. So if something like this happens again in the future, it's not as bad.
Well, it wouldn't happen. That's the point. I mean,
Well,
if the three, and I say three,
the
and I know
goal is for it
I know
not to
there's
happen.
four.
But again, we don't know what the future holds.
Right. Well, but
Hollywood's so anti-gun, they're literally shooting each other because they don't want to hire a gun expert.
Exactly.
Well, I don't think it's that they don't want to hire a gun expert. I think that most films have, experts and things. I mean, watch the credits if you ever have time to watch the credits on stuff. And most films have that kind of thing. I think it boils more down to the actors and maybe the directors and maybe some of the people, the staff or the crew that's on site. And I think the anti-gun, let's not say anti-2A, let's just say anti-gun element, right? So the anti-gun element, those that may be against firearms, against the use of firearms, whatever, you could, it's a whole separate argument whether or not it's hypocritical they're working on a film that has them. Sometimes films have them for historical purposes or whatever. They're not necessarily glorifying anything, but I think that it's a culture in which, and this is where we have room to work. I think we're missing the ball as a community. I think we've got room to work, and I think we need to be laser focused on doing this. You make and you both make a great point, Night Strike and Rob, that I think that they're anti-gun, they're not comfortable with guns, whatever it might be, right? And so they go in trusting, right? They go in trusting the prop masters and they trust the other people, maybe the trainer that is on site, and in other words, they don't have the knowledge to be able to verify. They have to trust people. And I think that's problematic because here's the thing. If I walk out on the range, me and Rick are out on the range and Rick's got his new, firearm and he says, "Hey, Clover, you ought to shoot this one," right? And Rick racks the slide, right? Nothing falls out. He drops the magazine, it's empty. He puts the magazine in, he racks the slide, whatever, and he hands it to me. What am I going to do? I just watched him rack the slide. No ammo fell out. What am I going to do? I'm going to do the same exact thing. Why? Because I want to manipulate everything myself and know myself that everything is as it should be. Now we're talking about blanks. We're talking about blanks in this situation, as with most movies.
Right.
And so it's a little different scenario because you would want to verify that is, indeed blank ammunition. But there's a couple of things that, there's a couple of things from a regulatory standpoint with using firearms in films. And there's some nuances as when it comes to blanks. There's all types of blanks. We know that. Some firearms, there are blank adapters, but if you fire a live round through that, it really doesn't make any difference. You're just sending a bunch of shrapnel downrange, right? So the overall thing is, at the very, very least, the actors, the people involved need to know the nuances, the differences in ammunition, right? And that way, if it doesn't look right, they can verify themselves. If it doesn't look right, they can say something. This whole idea of
exactly,
I'm dealing with a firearm and I'm just going to trust in somebody. Well, everybody in this chat, everybody out there in the live chat, that deals with firearms on a daily basis, we know better. We know better, but we deal with firearms on a daily basis. So maybe the folks in Hollywood, and could that potentially change and sway some opinions, right? If there is an educational program for, whether it's outreach to the Actors Guild or whatever it might be. If some trainers, some folks in our community was to reach out and go, look, hey, we want to help provide a service to you to stop this. We want this to be the very last time this ever happens. We don't want this to even be, an afterthought in somebody's mind when they go onto a set, to act or do camera work or anything else, right? On a filming location that has firearms. We want folks to be safe. And the way we do this is education, right? And so make it a part of the Actors Guild or make it a part of, the pre-production thing. Maybe when they even bring people in to cast them, they go, hey, do you have any experience with firearms? And if that actor says no, you go, are you open to, taking a training course if you get this part? And if they say no on both accounts, you know what? Then I'm gonna cast somebody else. You can't be in my movie, right? So that kind of goes back to the directors, the producers, the the folks behind the scenes, right?
Right.
In Hollywood, taking a little more responsibility when it comes to folks' safety on a filming location when there's firearms involved.
Now I got what you call it, a couple of things come to mind here. Basically, what you're saying is that okay. Problem is, I want to go back to where you say not putting blame on anybody. I'm not particularly, but isn't the, as you said, me and you and everybody here will check the. You hand me a firearm, I'm going to check it.
Yep.
Right. So if I check it, say I'm at the range and I'm in an indoor range or outdoor range, and I'm in my little section, and I have a negligence discharge, and it hits somebody, I'm the one who's going to be charged with something. I'm not going to get. They're not going to say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that. No problem." I will be charged with something by the legal people,
right?
But because he's an actor, he doesn't.
The situation's not the same though, Rick. You mean you're talking about? So would you get charged? I don't even have to relate this to a personal range. Like, would you get?
But
why is somebody on a personal range? Here's the thing, right? So on a personal range, is somebody standing down range? Now, if you're on a personal range, that's why I say it's not the same. He knew people were in front of him when he pulled the trigger, right? He knew this. Everything was supposed to be safe. When you're on a range and there's somebody down range, you're supposed to be paying attention to that and not shooting and pulling the trigger when somebody's down range, correct? And so that's the difference in the scenarios here. It was supposed to be a completely controlled, safe environment, and it wasn't. It wasn't.
Yeah,
but you're right. You're right that he pulled the trigger. So if he's not guilty because it was supposed to all be a controlled environment, this is where it's going to get tricky. And trying to try him, there's no sense in talking about it because it's so murky and muddy, and even trying to try him is going to be ridiculous. I think he's so broken up about it that I don't think that there'll be anything, and I don't. As far as the civil side of things, I would venture a guess that that'll all be settled in the quiet. On the civil side of things, he probably will step up. He's got plenty of money; he can do it. He'll probably step up on the civil side, and we'll never even hear anything about it. That's my point. But he's the one that pulled the trigger, right? So the first thought is we go after him. Well, wait a minute. The firearm, everything with the firearm, whether it being safe, he had no control over that. I mean, he did, but as far as in the current climate of the way films are done, right? He didn't. That was all supposed to be vetted by somebody else. And the reason we know that is the director and the cinematographer were downrange in front of him. That's problem number 2.
So it's safe
if
to
somebody is standing
in
front of somebody that's supposed to be pulling the trigger, is that person really guilty of anything? And then if you're talking about a prop master that got some ammo mixed up or whatever the case may be, how are they responsible for any type of manslaughter, maybe some type of minor negligence because they didn't pull the trigger? It's just such a messy situation.
Yeah, it is. But then you're right. I don't know how. I mean, all I know is if it happened to us, they would find some way to legally charge us with something. That's where I was getting at. I guess that's my bias coming through. But
I think so, because I mean, if you're talking about what if it happened, let's change the frame of reference then, right? Take the actor out of it, and let's say that it's a pro-gun, pro-2A filming, right? Do you think anything would have been any different? Do you think that the actor would be more likely? Pick an actor that's Gary Sinise. I don't know. Pick an actor that's pro 2A, right? Yeah. I don't think that makes a bit of difference, regardless. And I don't think people see it any differently. At least they shouldn't see it any differently.
So I know I got you riled up earlier, Clover, but should we be safe to assume that he didn't check the gun before he pulled the trigger?
Well, duh.
Okay.
Well, duh. But I don't know the culture as far as on set. You know, in Hollywood,
I.
I've been on many a movie set, right? But I've never felt unsafe. And that's what's crazy to me is, and all the movie sets I've been on are all usually westerns, so plenty of guns around, right? Plenty of blanks, plenty of pyrotechnics and stuff. And that's what I'm saying. This is weird to me from my perspective of, you know, my experience being on movie sets, is that there hasn't been, at least so far, there hasn't been any mention of, like I said, the prop masters and the prop guys and the trainers and all of this other stuff. So, you know, I don't know, and I think that's a big deal. We don't know a lot, right? And so, was it a lower production film where they got around that? And if they got around that, how can you get around that? Because again, there's certain things I know I've heard of anyway. I've never seen it, but I've heard of filmings being canceled because of certain safety concerns and certain issues, right? Like, you know, we couldn't do X, Y, and Z. You know, we can't film without a fire department on staff, for example, right? If it's a pyrotechnic type thing. And we can't get the fire department out this particular day, or the fire department had to go fight a fire, because they use volunteer fire departments a lot of times for that, filming crews do. And so the fire department is there on set. And this is why I've been around a lot of movie sets, is because of that. And we've never had this issue, but I've seen it happen to where they'll get pulled off on a fire. They'll have a brush fire. Well, screw you, movie people, right? It's like, we got to go put out this fire. We'll be back. And they couldn't film, right? They couldn't film the pyrotechnic part while it's going on. So if it was done without prop masters, trainers, and that security, what is the word I'm looking for, right? The verification, the double checking aspect of things, right? Then why were they filming? And who made that call, right? And again, we get back into the murky water of,
Who's
you
responsible?
know, who do you blame, right? At the end of the day, who do you blame? I think there's a lot of blame
Head
to go
honcho,
around.
man.
And
Head honcho takes responsibility, or should. And I think when a life is taken, somebody should be responsible. You know, it shouldn't just be deemed an act. Somebody let that chain of events occur, or signed off on it, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think it ultimately falls on Alec Baldwin. However, when you're talking about people owning up, so far, from what I've seen from Alec Baldwin, he seems to be manning up on it. And that's part of the issue I've got with people that are just, oh, is he going to jail? Are they going to do him anti-2A, kills a bunch of people type mentality? And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Stop and look at the bigger picture, and then think about all the things we don't know, which is most of it. But, you know, look at it, step back, and let's look at it from a different perspective, right? Regardless of political leanings and everything else, you got a dude that ultimately did pull the trigger. You're right. Ultimately did pull a trigger that ended somebody's life, right? He'll have to deal with that the rest of his life. But I think he realizes that, and I think he's willing to take responsibility where I don't think he is necessarily, I know for a fact he's not 100% responsible, right?
Well, I don't know, you're reading the chat, but Unknown User's got a good point. I mean, he says you can't say that what I'm saying is, how do you put it? You can't say that if this had happened to film students making a film in their garage. The one holding the gun wouldn't be charged with negligent homicide or endangerment, or would be?
Probably because there's no an independent film type situation is going to be different. Now, if those film students could prove or establish, right, that there was a chain of custody or chain of command when it came to the props that were being used and stuff, then again, we're talking about a different thing here. You can't equate. And I don't know the level of production this movie was, right? So again, we're getting back on information that we don't know, but I'm assuming, and I don't mind saying that, it's speculation. I'm assuming that if Alec Baldwin was in it, it was a fairly large production. And being a fairly large production, it probably fell under guidelines, and they had safeguards and safeties that were supposed to be, that's the key here, in place. So if you could document that as an independent film owner, You know, I think you would be the same thing. You would have a hard time
Yeah.
as a prosecutor. You would have a hard time prosecuting that case. That's what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah. But then also, then what I'm thinking of is, slightly getting back to the other thing is somebody should be held. I mean, I don't know if I'm not saying somebody get charged with murder or anything like that, but to me, the director, somebody on that set, has to be held accountable because they're in charge.
Yeah.
You know, now,
and I think they will from a civil standpoint. I think you will probably see, like I said, unless Alec Baldwin just decides to be generous and kick in to settle that out of court because of, you know, the trauma he's been through or whatever, then, you know, quite possibly we'll see that. But I think on the civil side of things, that's where things would really come out, because you're right. You know, ultimately, you know, if I was the family of the poor victim, right, I would want to know exactly what all went on, and I would know exactly where it originated, right? We know it ended with Alec Baldwin. We know that, right? But where did it fail? And where did the system fail in the process, I should say? Where did that fail in the first place?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where it, but, you know, back to the other thing you were talking about, I mean, there's, should they make a new guideline that is honored by because a lot of this stuff, like you're saying, the fire department not being there, they can't film. This is all guidelines, and normally the film unions agree to it, because it's normally the union people will say we can't film because you ain't got a fire crew here,
right?
You know, so
Squib joined us, just pointing that out.
Yeah, I saw that.
Squib will have all the answers. I say just ask Squib.
I'd say no, we don't need any more damn rules, just more accountability for your actions, and people will be a lot more careful. Personally, as far as filming and things like that, because I'd hate to see mid-range, lower range people not be able to get in the market because prices are just out of their ballpark.
I don't have a problem with rules. I mean, we're talking about filmmaking here. We're not talking about government imposition.
People are on different levels. You have college kids trying to get into it. I mean, there's all types of stuff. And should we discourage firearms from people due to that because of funding? I mean,
I think we double down. I think we double down on education, and this is a perfect opportunity that we should be doubling down on.
You're held liable. You know, personally, my opinion. But I would like to see something more than just money thrown at him, because I'm sure Alec Baldwin will, feels bad and is going to get hit civilly, especially if he avoids any kind of, jail or anything like that. So there's almost guaranteed going to be money involved, but money doesn't solve everything, and that's where I think he should get something. Or maybe not him, maybe it's the guy that handed him the gun. That's his job. If you screwed up your job and it cost a life, you should pay for that.
I would venture a guess that wherever the problem originated, whether we're talking prop master or whether we're talking, somebody on the crew, I don't know. You've seen movie credits. There's thousands and thousands of people that are credited. So, right. So I don't know where it first fell apart, but if it fell apart with a prop master or, some type of person on the crew, I would pretty much guarantee you at this point, they never work in Hollywood again.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But I mean, also, you can't, they can make a guideline saying that anybody with a firearm has to read a book on or be showing gun safety before they take, hold of a weapon. But you can't, for like me and you, we fight if somebody says, well, you've got to take a course to learn that before you buy a firearm. So, I'm trying to
Can't take
Okay.
risk out of life, people.
Okay.
Can't rule in law risk out of life.
Yeah.
People
Okay,
are always going to be people.
Okay, back to my shooting range scenario, right? Okay, what would happen? Me and you, I'm in one booth, you're in the next booth to me. There's more. You hand me a gun, say, here, try this one, it's loaded. And I disregard gun safety. I grab the gun off you, I'm messing around with it, and not pointing at you, but pointing, say, down there, and I pull the trigger, and it's got a live round in the chamber. It goes through the plywood and hits the person standing in the next booth.
Yeah. You were pointing it.
I will get charged with something.
Again, you were pointing it where you was not supposed to. He was supposed to be pointing it at them. They were filming that angle. That's my point. He was doing what he was supposed to do. As an actor, he was doing what he was supposed to do. And you were not in your scenario, right? You turned and shot it the opposite direction at somebody. Again, two different things.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I just think he needs to back to it. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I guess as you said at the beginning, it's my bias showing up.
So a more accurate thing, right, Rick? I guess because I got to thinking about this. So we know that there are guns out there that are Cerakoted that look like Nerf guns, that are Cerakoted that look like Nintendo blasters, right? We've all seen that kind of stuff, right? Real firearms that look like toys, right?
Yeah.
So you're at a backyard barbecue, right? And your buddy's son hands you what looks like a Nerf gun, right?
Yeah.
You assume it's a Nerf gun. He assumes it's a Nerf gun. The kid does. He doesn't know that Dad has a Glock 19 painted like a Nerf gun, right?
Yeah.
And Dad's standing there. Dad, sees it and he's like, Dad thinks it's the Nerf gun, right? He don't think that the kid got access to it or whatever the case may be, right? The kid hands you the gun. You don't check it. And the dad goes, "Hi, yeah, shoot me, man." And you whip it up and pull the trigger. And it goes bang instead of thunk or, whatever noise a Nerf gun makes. And you're like, holy crap, this was a real gun that just fired a real bullet, right? So a lot of things broke down in that situation. And yes, you're guilty for not double checking and verifying in that situation because, again, there isn't guidelines and or a structure set up for that scenario in a backyard barbecue like there are on a filming range.
All right.
So even if you try to draw the closest parallels you possibly can to any other situation in this, at the end of the day, it's a unique situation.
I guess it is. Anyway, real quick before we get carried away, let me bring in Squibload. How you doing?
You have me muted, Rick.
Did I? Who did I have muted?
I was talking earlier.
Oh, I didn't know I muted anybody. I apologize.
Don't apologize.
It's a sign of weakness. Well, I'm weak. There you go. I admit it. So, you got any take on this Alec Baldwin situation?
Not a whole lot on Alec Baldwin per se, but here's the deal. If I was doing a YouTube video with some people and we were going to use some Hollywood prop guns that fired blanks, and they handed me my gun and they handed the other guy his gun, and we're going to duel it out. Let's just say it was revolvers. So we'll make it real simple.
You're roboting.
Well, then fuck.
We lost
And he cut out.
He needs to buy a real phone.
Nice strike. You wanted to speak.
No, I pressed the wrong button.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So hopefully Squib will come back in. He sounded like he was driving somewhere.
So
Yeah.
he's talking about revolvers. If he and the other guy had a revolver, he probably would check it. The other guy didn't. He'd probably yell at the other guy to check it. Probably what he's going to say.
Yeah.
And that goes back into the education aspect, right? That's what we need to be talking about here, is making sure that we've got proper education where they can do that. Or are they even allowed to? See, that's my thing. So, like, if there's supposed to be a prop master and there's supposed to be this chain of command, well, maybe the actor checking it interrupts that chain of command. So maybe there's a actors guild, whatever. Maybe there's a rule. And does somebody know this information? Could we look this information up? Yeah, we probably could. But a lot of people are speculating and assuming, and they don't really have all the pieces of the puzzle. That's kind of my point. So maybe the prop master. I know as an actor myself, I would probably, especially with Alec Baldwin, right? Years and years and years in the business. I'm sure he's become accustomed to trusting the crew and everything else, as most actors probably are. I think that's a big part of working on movie sets is learning to trust people. But as a firearm person first, right? Like I said, whether I can do anything but pick that up and pull the trigger, because that may be all that the guild wants me to do. They're like, hey, we don't want you doing any of that mess. All we want you to do is act, and that involves picking it up and pulling the trigger, right? Then I'm going to say, well, I at least want to witness, right? I at least want to watch the prop master put those rounds into that firearm, at the very least. How long could that possibly take, right? Not long. And I would at least want to verify that. But again, you're talking about the actor having enough knowledge to be able to verify that, right? Could the average person discern? We've seen the funny meme out there with drill bits or driver bits, right? And people saying they're AR-15 bullets or something, right? Some idiot actually posted that. So my thing is, if you don't have the education to go with what you're looking at, right, it doesn't even matter. We can blame Alex Baldwin for not double checking or not looking at it, but he's got to know what he's looking at. And do we know that he has what it takes to be able to do that? And I can't answer that question either.
I would argue that most wouldn't, because when you get into blanks and things like that, I mean, there is differences within them too. So what scenes for what blanks. And then if you want to visually verify, that's going to get tricky. You would assume there would be, a specialist in the back with locked cases of ammunition that takes it through each stage. And the actors pretty much trust what's handed to them because this isn't what they do. So, again, I don't know. So I see what he's saying, but I don't think, I mean, would you be able to identify every single, I mean, you're a gun guy, Clover. Would you be able to identify every blank? Exactly. So,
but here's my thing.
I think, like you're saying, there should be some trust, but that's where that guy you put in that spot, that's his ass, in my opinion.
Right. But I agree with you. I agree with you, right? But I go back to another thing, and what makes this complex, and there's so many moving parts. I go back to the cinematographer and the director standing in front of it. With all the technology we've got nowadays, I can remote access a camera, filming a YouTube video. If you want to go down the whole, YouTube, TikTok, I can remote access and put a camera down range for that, right? I don't need to be standing down there the same as you. If you were filming me, you don't need to be standing down there, right? So I go back to why in the crap were they standing in front of him in the first place? It's like none of it just adds up, makes any sense. It's all just so ridiculously pointless that this happened. But
it's all, as you said, it's down to training. We can't force training on everybody because somebody off the street can go buy a hand if they're legally allowed to. Well, I say legally allowed, not somebody who's allowed to buy a firearm. Put it that way. Can walk into a gun store, never had a gun before in his life, buy one and take it home, and don't even know the first rule about gun safety. I mean, we've had this discussion many times before. I mean, you cannot force gun safety on. I mean, you can't make it a law, can you? That you have to have gun safety course before you own a gun. I don't think so. It just doesn't sit right with me for some reason. I don't know why. But go on.
You can sign a waiver when you get involved with firearms. I mean, there could be some type of steps regulation, which I'm sure there is in some cases, which I don't necessarily agree with. But, like everything else for insurance reasons or this or that down the line. But there's definitely things that could be done. I think, but at the same time, it is going to cut everybody out if it comes down to a dollar price. I think so. And maybe the level, once you involve a gun in a second party or something like that, that may, I don't know, maybe there should be levels. I don't really know, but I just hate to see the average guy or say one of our kids get into this or something and, they're limited because of funding and they may be more than adequate to do what they were intending to do.
Yeah.
Not saying as a kid, but I shouldn't have said
I know what
that,
you mean.
You know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah.
I just it's going to stunt further.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree
I
with
don't
you.
know. I can't think of the right words here.
But when it comes, I mean, like when it comes to entertainment, TV personalities, movie stars, whatever you want to call them, right? Is normally when I'm watching a show of some sort, you can roughly get a sort of a semi-educated guess of somebody of an actor who has maybe a little bit of knowledge, because you'll see some that are actually got their finger off the trigger, holding it how you're meant to. But the majority of them, you see them walking through the house or whatever with their finger on the trigger. So that guy ain't got no clue what the hell's going on. I look at stuff that when I'm watching, program. I try not to get into it too much because all these shows are just entertainment. And that's all they are, But
yeah, and I mean, if you're watching that and you don't have a frame of reference, what difference does it make? You know what I mean? So if you've never been taught, keep your finger off the trigger, right?
Yeah.
And you're watching that, well, then it doesn't necessarily instill a bad habit because you've never been taught the right way, right? In order to know that you're doing something bad, you have to know what's good.
And
one doesn't exist without the other.
But now, back to the film industry, right? When they do this, they got rules. They got rules or whatever you want to call them. How you deal with blank ammo, how you deal with live ammo, how you do, how you, as you say, got to have a fire department there. They're going to have to come up with a new guide to say, you got all these people who have firearms have to, take a 30-minute course on gun safety or some shit. As you said, you got to educate them. As you said, if they don't know, they don't know.
But even if, I mean, that would give resource obviously to the guild. That would give recourse maybe to the producers or with, at certain levels. But, here's the flip side of this, man. Accidents happen and tragedies and things happen, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, even with all of that, something could still go wrong. I mean, it could always happen because you're talking about a situation. There's a lot of talk here about, well, he owns it because he was, when you shoot a gun at somebody, you own it or whatever. And I'm like, we're talking about a situation where he was supposed to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, like, equate this to me and Rob. Me and Rob is out in the woods. We're part of an airsoft team, and we're airsofting, man, and we're shooting the crap out of each other, right? Or out of other people. And Rob's behind a tree over there, and he says, "Clover, I'm out." And I reach down and, like a moron, I've carried my handgun, my EDC.
I knew you were trying to set me up
onto the airsoft field, right? And he says, "Clover, I'm out." And I grab my EDC and throw it to Rob, and without thinking, he catches that sucker like Sylvester Stallone on a roll and picks it up and pops off about 3 rounds into some poor airsoft dude on the opposite team.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you're right there, Rob.
So I'm the moron.
To get the black guy in trouble,
Rob was doing what he was supposed to do in the context of the airsoft game, right?
Yeah.
So it was all happening real time right there. It's a very different situation than pointing it where you're not supposed to be pointing it.
Yeah.
But I would be at fault. I would be majorly at fault. I would be the bonehead moron that probably should face charges in that situation.
No, he'd be like, I don't know where he got that gun. No idea.
Right. Just so happens I threw you the one with no serial numbers on it, right? And I was wearing
At
gloves,
the same
so it ain't got
time,
my
you're like,
breath.
hey, I can hold on to your guns while you're in jail if you want. We'll figure this out.
It's all Rob's fault. Rob did it.
Oh yeah. So I don't know.
I was gonna blame Squibb in that example, but he bailed. So
Yeah, yeah. But it is a strange one. You know, as you said, at the moment, there's a lot of stuff we don't know yet.
Well, you hear the rumors. I mean, I don't want to start rumors, but I don't know if it's truly a rumor. I think I caught it off one of the maybe Guns and Gadgets, maybe, I don't know. But apparently people were saying there was reports of a lot of like negligent discharge. They were calling misfires. So, I mean,
I haven't heard that one.
If that was going on, like, I'm sorry, but I'm clocking out. Like, you know, people are just randomly putting rounds places. I don't care if it's a blank or not. That's not a safe situation.
Well,
I'm damn sure not standing in front of anybody with a gun.
That sounds like an unregulated movie filming environment, which gets back into those guidelines and rules and stuff that they should be adhering to.
Yeah. But
that's a little scary if that's true.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, hang on. There we go. I don't know. Here's one for you. I'm starting this one. Let's see how far it gets. Actually, I took this from a film I saw. Actually, somebody, ex-boyfriend of that woman who got killed, slipped in there and put a real bullet in it. It was actually murder.
You know what? And we're talking conspiracy theory, obviously, speculation and rumor and whatever else. We've got to caveat this, but that was one of my first thoughts when that happened.
Oh yeah.
I was like, who was on the film set, right? That was questionable in some way, right?
Yeah.
They had a beef with somebody else on the film set. They had a political motive, whatever the case might be, right? Who had access to that stuff that had a chip on their shoulder? And that was one of when I first heard this break, that was my first thought.
Yeah, I thought about it. This morning, actually. I wonder if that's what it's all about.
It could be, but in the end, I think it's still the firearms handler's fault. If you're going to hand something off, it better be right. You know, in my opinion, it's the same thing at the fair with the guy that's putting the last bolt in. Like, it better be right, because if somebody's family gets on there and ends up dead and all over the news, it's a problem. And so, when you buy tickets or a wristband, there's actually a waiver on the back of that. So if that does happen, you're screwed. Same thing with racetracks. If a tire flies off and kills you, you're screwed. So just so you're aware. But, I don't feel it should be that way. I think, you should be responsible. Like if you're building or working, doing something that's going to cause physical harm to somebody, you should be responsible for that. I don't like it with the auto companies. I don't like it with anybody. That's just me. I don't know. If I made a deck in the first barbecue, it fell down and somebody got killed, I'd feel horrible and feel responsible. I don't know. It shouldn't go back to code because they inspected it and it was all fine. It's, I take personal responsibility in my, you know what I mean? That's how I feel it should be across the board.
Yeah, but I don't think Alec Baldwin is reneging on any of that.
Yeah, well, maybe not him, but somebody. I want to see somebody's face on TV and cuffs, damn it.
Well, but you need to know. I mean, that's if anybody did anything, intentionally, right, or whatever. Because again, we get back into negligence is a tricky situation and super hard to prove. Negligence, it's difficult, and when you have all the moving parts and pieces that are at play here, it's even more so. So your analogy about the deck, Rob, is a great one, and you're a stand-up guy, and you would stand up and go, man, I don't know what happened, but then what happens when people investigate that and they find out that their neighbor went out there and took nearly all the screws out of the deck, right? Or something crazy.
Don't let me find out.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And so right now we don't know. There's so many components, right?
Oh yeah.
Or what if you find out, and this is where it gets even trickier, Rob. What if you find out that some of the braces or some of the materials you use for that deck, right? That said company, this was after the fact, that's fell in and everybody gets to looking into it. The deck fell in and injured or killed somebody, and you get to looking into it, and the company that made those braces has had all these recalls recently and all these claims that they were making some type of inferior brace that breaks under a certain load weight or something, and you didn't know that, when you use those braces. So it's like you built the deck, you put it together, but yet that wasn't really your fault because that company that you got those from did something, they were the weak link. And we're eventually going to find out the weak link. Don't make make no mistake about that. It's going to be interesting when it comes out exactly where the weak link is, but there is one, and it ain't Alec Baldwin.
In the chat now, they're going, everyone knows that lady had something on the Clintons. It was Hillary.
Possible, but that's why you always double check. In my opinion, you don't do something like that without from your hand to theirs is the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree with you too. But we'll find out in the coming days what. Hopefully, we will find they investigate it. They find it. They've got to come up with some new. The film industry as a industry have to come up with some new guidelines to make sure it's done right. Or some way of checking that they're following the guidelines they've got set up.
And it's
makes an example out of somebody.
It makes for strange bedfellows for sure. But I think the firearm community, especially the training, safety, educational side of our firearm community, has a role to play, and I would like to see some type of a tighter partnership between that sector of our community in Hollywood in that respect.
It would be good for our community if something like that,
And ultimately, that's what I'm getting at with all the rambling and ranting that I've done is that, I think that's what we need to be pushing and be focusing on. This is something that I think there's a lot of people, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm the person to be the, call on from high person to regulate everything in Hollywood and train and educate. But we certainly have plenty of those people in our community. And I think we need to be taking this opportunity not to capitalize, not to demonize, not to, what is the word? Exploit anything. But I think we need to take this opportunity to make Hollywood and filming locations and all that a better, safer place for everybody, not just the actors and the cinematographers and the directors, but the food crew and wardrobe and everybody else. Where they all feel a little more comfortable. That gives that added layer. Obviously they bring in experts for all kinds of things, but I don't know. You're just one firearms expert. I don't know if that's enough, right? I don't know that you don't need on a filming location with firearms that you don't need. Obviously, an expert. You need an expert with firearms at the time because that person's going to give instruction on how those were used at the time, so it looks more authentic. You've got obviously your safety, but then you've got your accountability, as Rob and other people have brought up. You've got actual firearm people that are able to look at those rounds, that are able to look at those firearms, those props, and those different things, that are able to assess the camera angles where things are being shot and potential if there's any type of projectiles used, because sometimes prop guns do expel a projectile of some sort. Hey, is there ricochet factor going on here, right? And they do that. What's crazy is they already do that, I know for a fact, with pyrotechnic stuff. So it's not that far of a leap, but the pyrotechnic community is fairly small compared to the firearm community. So I think if we made a push that they do focus a little more on that education, safety, training aspect with filming, I think it's ground we can make up. I think we can actually do some good there.
Yeah, you're right. I think it would be a good place to. Yeah, that is something that we need to work on. Who do we know? I don't know any big wigs who could do that, except for you, Clover.
Well, I've said it before. I've sat across the table and ate hamburgers with Sam Elliott twice, but unfortunately, I don't have his cell phone number. I would definitely call him up in light of this and go, "Hey, bro, help us out."
Yeah. Well, damn.
Yeah,
But
I
hopefully,
think we need somebody big that yells a lot. I think we know somebody like that.
somebody big and who yells a lot.
Roll call. I think he's talking about roll call.
Oh.
That would work. I was thinking Squib, but
Yeah.
either one.
Yeah, and Squib won't apologize either. You know? So. Anyway, guys.
Squib's never wrong. Why should he apologize, Rick?
That's right.
Come on.
That's right. So anyway, we're going to it's 10 minutes past 4, so let me do my quiz from last week. For I got about 3 entries, I think. And it's a shame that that's all we got because besides my very limited supply of stuff I have now, I think there's a couple of patches and some stickers. And I'm getting to the end here. I don't know if you guys noticed that I had a poll going in the chat asking if I should keep the quizzes going or not. So I'm trying to, what's it telling me? It's 80, should I keep the quizzes at 88%? So it looks like I'm doing it. But anyway, where I'm going with this is what's sad is I got 3 entries to this week's quiz. And what I'm problem is also Gun Loving Grandpa puts up, like with this, a 6-inch steel target to shoot at as well. And just for 3 people to enter, I feel kind of bad, to be honest, because I don't know, because I guess because of the expense of buying one of those and mailing it out, and we only got 3 people trying for it. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but it does to me. But all right. But the question I wanted to know was what was recognized, who, where, which is recognized as the first train robbery in the United States. Right? And actually, it was the first peacetime train robbery, because I said it was during peacetime, not during war, in the United States actually occurred on October 6, 1866, when robbers boarded the Ohio and Mississippi train shortly after it left Seymour, Indiana. And it was the Reno Gang was the name of them. So, and actually it was just the Reno brothers. There was actually more than 2.
I've heard of them before.
But it was just, there was only 2 of them at the time that robbed the train. So there you go. That's what's recognized as the first train robbery in the United States, according to my research. But I got that off the internet, so it doesn't mean it's 100% right. But the entries I got all had the same thing as me, so must be close. Okay, where's my random picker? Here it is. Let me hit. Here we go. AR Guns is the winner. So there we go.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I think he's disqualified. He came in late. That should be a disqualification.
I'd ask Buck on the target thing maybe for next time. Maybe you guys want to do a minimum, or when you get so many entries or something. I don't know.
I would.
Obviously, he's the one that's chipping that in. So
yeah,
see what he thinks on the answer. So, and thank you, Buck. So that's a little private thing between me and Buck.
Yeah. So I just wanted so AR Guns was the winner. So looks like I got a troll in the room there. Somebody's taking care of it for me. That's good. Okay. So my next quiz is, I think there's 2 patches and some stickers. And this is a real easy question. And if anybody was listening to this morning, Caliber Corner, they actually talked about it on that show. So you should be able to come up with the answer. It's to do with ammo, the 450 Nitro Express. Who developed it and when? So I want the name of the guy who developed it and when it was developed, i.e. the year. So there we go. Email me at rickslife@gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. And you've got to November the 6th. That's 2 weeks from now. So that's that one. Okay.
Leave it to Rick to use a British caliber.
Yeah, but hey, just saying that's hey, Mystic Guns, good to see you. So that's where we're at on the so that's the quizzes done. No, okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Because I could definitely throw a couple of burgers on the grill right now.
I just like you guys to go check out my polls and vote.
I think
You're all
we'll knock it out of the
stars.
park, Rick.
You're all stars.
Yeah. I'm going to end
check
my
it out.
poll. I got 86% saying to keep the quizzes. Well, I'm going to have to get my ass to a gun show or something.
You and the rest of us too, Rick. What are you talking about? I mean,
Yeah, I got to get.
Yeah.
I would definitely soak up some stuff to send to you if I ever went anywhere. But
Yeah.
I went to USCCA, and I'm telling you right now, they didn't have hardly anything. SHOT Show is the place to get that, really.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the swag you have sent me in the past. Plus, I got a whole bunch that time I went a couple of years ago to the NRA. I got a bunch of swag there that time.
I ain't been one of those either. So yeah.
No, there hasn't. And the next one actually is just down the road. It's going to be in Louisville, which is actually
Really?
closer to me than Indianapolis is.
They say it's gonna be in Louisville, but
Yeah. But if it is, I'm going just to get the swag.
But
Yeah.
I'm working on it. But I got a couple of those canceled Houston NRA show patches from PSA.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna give out.
So
If people have any extra swag, then they can send it Rick's way.
yeah.
Make sure it's the legal kind.
Yeah, legal swag only.
Yes. I would appreciate it. If you need a mailing address, just email me and I'll give it to you. All right. So, where are we at? I think that's about it. You guys got anything else you want to talk about? It's
No,
4
go for
8.
some burgers on the grill.
Okay. So,
What
Night
I'm talking
Strike.
about.
You got any shout outs or plugs you want to do?
Yeah. I want everyone to stop what they're doing. Open up your web browser. Go to www.rnldisplays.com and check out all the wonderful displays that they sell. 100% wood, made in America, from a veteran-owned business. Check them out. rnldisplays.com.
Okay. And that's what that wall mount is behind me with my AR-15 on it.
Exactly.
That's part of it. Then you get the wall mount, then you also get this table mount as well in the kit. And if you go there to rnldisplays.com, type in Rick's Life in the checkout area and you'll get 15% discount.
All right. All
There
right.
you go. G23 plugging his discount on my show.
I need a discount code. I don't have one yet. So.
Oh, I think it's funny. But yeah, you can either put in G23 or Rick's Life.
Yeah.
To get the 15% discount. I don't get any kickback or anything, so you could use either one. So,
Well, I wouldn't say that I didn't get a kickback, but I got one.
I did too. That was my kickback.
So I'm gonna be honest. I got one, but you know what? I'm gonna do a review on it and whatnot, and push more people towards it.
Yeah. So anyway, there we go. Anyway, New York Outcast, you got any plugs or shout outs?
Sure. I'll just add that there will be a sale coming up this Halloween. Like a 3-day sale starting Halloween, I believe. So if anybody's interested, maybe keep an eye out for that. Also, I do have a couple polls in my community section regarding some of these YouTube stars. I'd really like your input when you get a second. Other than that, check everybody out in the panel and without, in the chat, except that Glock guy. You should really watch him. But besides that, everybody have a great evening. Eat a salad, do something good.
All right. Now, when you say community, are you talking about your YouTube page?
Yes. For some reason, I'm new, so I thought when you did a poll or something, it'd go out to all your subscribers, and apparently it doesn't. Or at least I can't get it to. So a lot of people don't see them, unfortunately. So unfortunately, you got to kind of look for it. But if you're interested.
All right. I mean, I done that poll here you can do it in the chat while the chat's running, So.
Now anybody over 500 subscribers can post or poll, which is really why I was hoping to get to 1,000 to be able to do that. So
yeah, actually,
mainly shout out for other people and do some of these polls, which I think are fun.
I lost 2 or 3 subscribers. So I'm going backwards instead of forward, but that's okay. I'm not in it to become rich and famous.
Sometimes people fall out. I don't know if it's due to YouTube or what, but I've noticed numbers drop and then they'll pop right back in.
Yeah.
So
I looked at it, Rob, and I thought I was subscribed to you because I remember subscribing to you, and it said I wasn't subscribed to you.
Well, you don't like me.
Well, no. I like you well enough to subscribe to you.
All right, I appreciate it.
So I resubscribed. But I'm pretty sure I was subscribed already. But YouTube has this habit of unsubscribing people.
Yeah, 2 Live Moon. The chat says use code raw milk for a discount at R&L displays.
Take it. He saw the poll.
Yeah. All right, Clover. You got any plugs or shout outs?
No. Well. Yeah, I mean, I don't do anything. I'm just waiting on a check from Bloomberg, and it's going to get me completely out of guns forever. It should be here in the mail any day now, honestly. So I'll have to retire. But I'll comment on the community tab because that is rolling out. Not everybody 500 plus subscribers has that yet, but that is rolling out to everybody. And I'm going to tell you, when that rolls out, use it. That can be a very, very effective tool. It's one of the reasons they're rolling it out to everybody. And eventually it will be probably rolled out regardless of channel size. They may tie it to 100 subs, but even then, I doubt it. I've got a funny feeling they're going to eventually open it up to everybody. It is such a powerful tool. As Rob pointed out, it doesn't send out notifications, but those do show up in the main feed. And if you're curious what a creator is posting, well, you need to go over there and engage under the community section on their channel. Quit being lazy as viewers. YouTube does a really good job at serving us up the content that we want, need, love, and desire. But that doesn't mean that we should just sit back and be lazy. So go check those creators out, all the ones on the panel, the ones out there in the chat. Check out Rick's Patreon. Help foot the bill a little bit for the stuff he has to mail out every week with the quizzes. And thanks for the chat, Rick. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you stopping by. I haven't seen you in a while. So I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. And I will be back on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And hopefully I'll have an update on my my heart situation since they've put me off yet again. So, if I didn't laugh, I'd cry. So there we go. Anyway, so I want to say thank you very much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time zone, the only one that matters. So, good night, everybody. Goodbye, Sabrina.
An achy, breaky heart just might blow up and kill this man.